Hello, my friends. Today's the 25th of February, 2019. It is Monday. I hope you had a blessed weekend, and I hope the new week ahead will be blessed for you, and you will be safe. Sadly, the topic that I am going to do today is not a happy-go-lucky topic. It's not a wonderful topic. Actually, it is a very, very sad topic, but it is one the Bible clearly tells us is going to occur, and we're actually seeing it occurring now. Pretty well much more than probably since biblical times. And I'm talking about the persecution of Christians. You do not see this on the mainstream media. We know the media today in America and worldwide generally is heavily leans to the left. When I grew up, the media pretty well much, bar a few exceptions, pretty well much just told the news. They got in the chair, sat in front of the camera, they had their little paper, and they read the news to you. They did not give you their opinions. They did not, tell you that so-and-so's a liar, or such and such is a racist, a hypocrite, or white supremacist, or the other myriad of names that's being called today about our president, his administration, his supporters. You didn't have that when I was growing up. Yes, you had some reporters that leaned one way or the other, and they gave, a little nudge in their when they would speak. But other than that, that was pretty well much it. We have really seen the media split wide open since 2016, since 2015 when the current president announced he was running. But when he got the nomination and it looked like he was going to be nominated for the Republican Party, they really busted loose, and you really started to see what this media is really about. And they are what I call Luciferians. They are not of God. And this is why you will not see persecution of Christians worldwide being reported on the mainstream media on a daily basis. My friends, this is happening right now. I have 10 countries, okay? There's an organization that keeps track of the persecution of Christians in the world. They keep track of all the attacks. They keep a database. If they've tore down churches, or they have physically assaulted Christians or murdered them, whatever, torture. This website keeps absolute wonderful details on all of this. So I got a lot of information from them. And before I even did it, I checked them out, because I hate to say it, even though they're a Christian organization, you just can't trust people by what they say today. You really can't. And I hate to say that because, of the type of work that they do, but I had to check out and make sure they were actually a legit organization. They're a non-profit church organization that does this, and they collect reports from all over the world. So I got my information on the nations from this website, and I did do my background checks on them. So these countries are absolutely the top 10, and there was 50. Can you believe there was 50 nations in this world that have absolute many, many reports of Christians being persecuted? 50. But these, later on in the video, I'm going to give you the top 10 from number 1 to 10. So, what does the Bible say about persecution? Well, 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 12 says, "Indeed, all who desire to live a godly life in Christ Jesus will be persecuted." John 15:18 says, "If the world hates you, know that it hated me before it hated you." The me in that is Jesus Christ. That scripture, or that verse, is saying, Jesus is telling you, I know you're hated, you're persecuted, but you must remember I was persecuted and hated before you. I was the first. So he's letting you know you're not alone, Matthew 5:44 But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. I want to say something about this, but let me read the last one, Matthew 5:10. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Go back to 5:44. But I say to you, love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you. Now, my friends, that is an extremely difficult thing to do. Let's not kid ourselves. If someone is persecuting you as human beings, you want to lash out. You want to fight back. You're being attacked, so you want to go back at them. That is the normal thing to do that a human would do. But with Jesus in your life and in your heart, you're to pray for them. And believe me, I know that that's hard. It's not an easy thing. Remember, nobody said, walking with the Lord was going to be easy. This whole video that I'm doing is about being persecuted for that very reason, for walking with Jesus. It's not going to be easy. Anyways, we see examples of persecution today. I could have went back through history. Of course, we know Saul persecuted Christians, killed them, murdered them, and of course we know the story. He was knocked off his horse. He was on the road to Damascus, and the light of God beamed down and knocked him off his horse. And the Lord said to him, "Why, Saul, why do you persecuteth, me and my followers?" And Saul then gave his life to the Lord and became one of the greatest men in the Bible, wrote some of the most wonderful books in the Bible. This man started his life persecuting Christians. So yes, that absolutely goes for Matthew 5:44, where it says, love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you. So it's not easy, but that is the greatest example in the Bible. Saul to Paul, the greatest example of that type of thing, from persecution, from the one doing the persecute to himself being persecuted later in life. Wonderful example. So what are some of the examples that for today that persecution is? Well, of course, we have physical and verbal abuse, which I get a lot of verbal abuse. I do no longer because I cut the comments off. But I was receiving a lot of verbal abuse, so I know that's true. In other countries, you're imprisoned for your faith in Jesus Christ. They kidnap Christians and make their families pay a ransom to get them back. A lot of times they take the money and kill the Christian anyways. They deport them. There's nations that deport Christians today. These are things that I'm talking about in 2019 that are happening right now in these countries, and I'm going to give you 10 of them in a minute. Destruction of property. I'm going to get to that in 1 second. They fine you if you're caught reading the Bible. If they don't lock you up, they fine you. And of course, the last two, they torture and then they murder you. Go back to destruction of property. I seen a video, and this is what gave me my idea to do this topic. I seen a video where they were showing all of these Southeast Asia, the Middle East, these heavily populated Muslim nations were bulldozing churches. I saw this one video, I believe it was Indonesia, and the government had came in with a bulldozer, and they had Muslims on one side cheering it, absolutely cheering. They were destroying this church. They were tearing it down, bulldozing it down, and the Muslims were cursing at them. And there was a group of Christians who went to that church on the other side, and the Muslims were cursing at them and laughing at them, and just, this is what the person that was making the video was saying, and you could see the Muslims were shaking their fists at the Christians. And then when they panned over to the Christians, as they saw their house of worship, where they probably spent many hours worshiping the Lord, being decimated, and then being mocked and being spit at and their fists being shook at. What were the Christians doing? They were singing gospel hymns. Of course, a lot of the women had tears in their eyes. Absolutely. But they were singing, praising Jesus as their church was being demolished. When I saw that video, I knew right then and there I had to do this video. Because, my friends, this is not being reported. It really never has. I can go back over 100 years ago when the nation Turkey did the Armenian genocide, where they slaughtered over 1 million Armenian Christians. They still persecute them to this day, but not like that. But they were starving them to death. They were torturing them. They were beating them. I saw a picture. This was right before World War I. So World War I started in 1914 over the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. He got assassinated at the end of June 1914. And by the beginning of August, World War I had begun. So this was right prior to that. And I saw a picture. And I saw this picture several years ago, and I've never forgot it. It was a Turkish, now remember, Turkey's Muslim, and the Armenians are Christians. And there was a group of about 10, maybe dozen Armenian children, skin and bones, had no shirts on. They just had, like, I guess, like underwear bottoms or something. That's all they had on. And they were, you could see their ribs. You could count the ribs in this. I'll never forgot this picture. And there was a Muslim guy from Turkey holding a piece of bread over top of these little children. I would say they were 6, 7, 8 years old. And these little children were begging for just that piece. He had one piece of bread. And he was mocking them. The caption was saying he did not give them the bread. He had no intentions of giving them the piece of bread, but he was doing it because he thought it was funny. These starving children that were Christian, he was mocking them, and he was holding the piece of bread over just out of their reach, and they were reaching up trying to get the bread, and he would not give it to them. And then I read more on, and he never did. And those children were then dragged around the back of that building, and they were murdered. This is the type of things I'm talking about. This ain't something that's just happening today, but I've never forgot that photo. Never. Just like when I saw that video this morning of that Christian church in Indonesia being bulldozed, and the Christians were singing, praising Jesus, tears in their eyes, but they were praising the Lord. And the Muslims right across the way were shaking their fists and cursing at them and laughing and mocking. And they call that the religion of peace, my friends. It's anything but. Anything but. Like I said, they have 50 nations that have cases of Christians being persecuted, documented cases. I've only listed the top 10. I didn't want to do 50 because this would have went on. So I'm going to read you the top 10, and I'm going to finish the video. Of course, the number 1 is North Korea. You can understand why President Trump is so adamant on getting an agreement with North Korea so his people would stop starving and stop being put in concentration camps and Christians being persecuted. Of course, the main thing is the nuclear denuclearization of North Korea, but it's also for the people to open that country up to some humane treatment so those people can get food and they can get health care that they need. It ain't just about the nuclear weapons. That is very important that man who's not all there does not have access to that. So yes, that's probably the most. But the people are starving and they're beaten and they're put in concentration camps. That's also another goal that this president wants to get done by getting this deal so North Korea gives up their nukes and then they can start getting aid from the Western nations. Number 2, Afghanistan, where our soldiers have been. It is now the longest war in the United States history. Didn't know if you knew that. Vietnam was prior to that. Vietnam they call the 10,000-day war. We were involved, actual war, from March of '65, and we ceased 73, but we didn't leave until 75 when we evacuated the U.S. Embassy in Saigon. That's probably seen pictures of helicopters flying off with people hanging on, trying to get out before the communists took over. A little side note on Vietnam. I seen a show not too long ago where the people, they've been under socialistic, communistic rule for 50-some years now, and they now realize what the Americans were trying to do, and they thank America and wish America would have been able to finish what they started, because they've been under that rule for so long. It's interesting. It's really interesting, and they want to do that in this country. That demonic, evil, socialistic garbage that's being pushed on us right now. We have a man running for president, my friends, named Bernie Sanders. He's a communist. Don't let it fool you. He's a hardcore Marxist communist, and he wouldn't think twice about decimating our government and our capitalism. He wouldn't think twice about it. Number 3, Somalia, which we also went into in 1993. If you ever saw the movie Black Hawk Down, we went into there. I might be wrong on that. But anyways, it's in Africa. Number 4, Libya. Gaddafi was his nation. Number 5, Pakistan. Number 6, Sudan, another African nation. Number 7, Eritrea. Number 8, Yemen. 9, Iran. And number 10, India, the second largest English-speaking country in the world. India. Don't know if you know that, but it is. Iran, of course, hardcore Muslims. People are being murdered in these nations, my friends. They're being killed because of their faith in Jesus Christ. Pray for every one of these people in these nations that I give. Just pray for the persecuted Christians. We have it wonderful in America. We're starting to see some of it now from the liberal left pushing down on Christianity in the United States. But we're only seeing a minute bit compared to what these poor souls are having to suffer. Believe me. Believe me. My friends, that's all I've got for you today. I am still under the weather, so I'm not going to go any further. Thank you. Have a wonderful day today. God bless each and every one of you. And remember, pray for your brothers and sisters around the world. Pray for them, because believe it or not, prayer works. God bless. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.